Quick check. Mic check 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. You good? You good? Everyone good? All right. All right. He's moving. Are we ready? People are still flocking in, so we'll wait a minute. Well, good morning, everyone, and let me welcome you to the first day of school. I don't know how many of you in the audience remember your first day of school. In all fairness, I do not. But as I was walking down the street with the school's chancellor, Dennis Walcott, towards the cameras, he asked me to hold his hand. He was so nervous on the first day. For the record, I declined. First, let me thank Principals Jessica Torres Mejia, Manny Ramirez, and Barbara Hansen for hosting us at this beautiful new school complex. I just came from Ms. Garcia's kindergarten class and Mr. Morgan's 9th grade math class. Today is a big day for their students and for the 1.1 million public school children all across the city who are headed back to school after the summer break. It is a new year and a new chance to build on the enormous progress that we've made over the last several years. Our graduation rates are up nearly 41% since '05, compared to only 9% improvement from the rest of the state, and more kids are graduating ready for success in college and or the working world. We compare ourselves to what the students in the rest of the state do only because that's the only group that takes exactly the same tests as the kids in the city. So it's an apples-to-apples comparison. Comparing us to other states or to national averages or to international averages is hard, and we try to do that. But here's a number that everybody knows is accurate. We're up 41% since '05 in graduation. Rest of the state up 9%. We want to help the state. We're part of that, and that's great. But it's a good comparison, and it just shows how much the principals and the assistant principals and the teachers and the parent coordinators and the custodians and the school crossing guards and everybody else that's part of the school system. For the 1.1 million kids, we have roughly 125,000 employees that provide the educational experience that is going to shape the lives of these students. It's going to determine whether they're going to be able to share in the great American dream or not. We certainly have a lot more work to do, but I think it's indisputable that our schools are heading in the right direction and that this year we have the wonderful opportunity to do even better, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that's the case. Achieving success begins with expecting success. And our administration, as you know, our core philosophy when it comes to education has always been that if we raise our expectations, our kids will meet them. It's up to us to help them meet them, but the higher you raise the bar, the better people do, and that's just a natural thing. If you have a low bar, people don't try. If you have a high bar, they do, and it really makes a difference. The more they learn now, the better lives they will have. At the same time, it's safe to say we are also making the investments necessary to help our kids get there, and we're doing that in a number of ways, including 4 that I'd like to talk about this morning. First, we're helping our kids succeed in giving their parents more tools and support, and that includes using technology to help keep parents informed even when they're on the go. In this day and age, we all know that an awful lot of families aren't the traditional families of a mother staying at home and the father going to work, which is the world I grew up in. Today, 1 or 2 parents, and both typically are breadwinners in the family. So what we've done is we've launched a new mobile text messaging service, and we're encouraging all parents to text NYC Schools to 877-877 to sign up for mobile alerts and information. So that's New York Schools, text to 877-877. This service will help them stay informed on everything from lunch menus to school holidays to parent-teachers conferences. And this new service is part of our work to make our school system more responsive to the modern-day needs of both students and parents, especially as texting has become a more and more common means of communicating. I, for example, cannot talk to my youngest daughter unless I text to her. Don't ask me why. She always calls me back right away, but doesn't get the first text. Second, we're helping our kids succeed by giving them more one-on-one support through programs like our Success Mentor Corps, the largest school-based monitoring program in the nation. It has been central in our fight against chronic absenteeism. In fact, in participating elementary schools, the proportion of students chronically absent during the past school year dropped 27% compared to the previous school year. And this year, Success Mentors will be reaching over 5,000 students in schools. If you don't show up in school, you can't get the education. And so working hard to make sure the kids show up. We have a program where we call you automatically. We have sports figures and even the mayor. And it calls you up and says, get out of bed and go to school, or something like that. I forgot a long time ago since I recorded it. But it really does work. Anything we can do to get kids to show up in the class, it's not sufficient, but it is a necessary first condition for us to give a good education. Third, to help our students succeed, we're continuing to build the modern facilities that 21st century education requires. And the building that we're in today, I think, is a perfect example of that. This new settlement campus includes the Mount Eden Children's Academy, an elementary school with 132 students. It also includes the Comprehensive Model Project School that has more than 400 students from grades 6 through 9, and it will eventually grow to include grades 10 through 12. And the campus is home to a District 75 school for students with disabilities. Now, this campus features this beautiful library, a state-of-the-art music room, an auditorium, a gymnasium, a science lab, an indoor pool, and a free comprehensive health clinic. I can tell you when I went to school, we did not have an indoor pool unless there was a leak in the roof. The elementary school here is among the 55 new schools with 7,300 seats opening their doors all over the city today. The good news is we keep building schools. The better news is that the demand for seats in our school system goes up even faster. People understand that this school system is dramatically better than it was in the past, and that this is a place where their kids can get a quality education. They're not going to get it unless the parents help and the teachers and principals work as hard as they can, and the taxpayer continues to provide funding. But we are building a record number of classroom seats and a record number of new schools. The fourth thing we're using to help our students succeed is by continuing to invest in training, not just for their teachers, but for their administrators as well, and that includes our new school principal mentoring program. Starting 2 years ago, we began implementing a pilot mentoring program in which we asked our most successful principals to help identify teachers and assistant principals who would make great principals if given the chance to start their own new schools. The mentor would then help train their staff members as they are prepared to open a new school, and the mentor would continue providing support during her or his first 3 years in their new role. To date, the program has produced 13 new principals who have started new schools, including Principal Torres Mejia, who continues to be mentored by Principal Ramirez. You know, you never stop learning. And anybody that thinks they know it all is not all that intelligent. Really smart people understand they don't know it all, and they're open to having people help them. Really smart people, when they don't understand something, aren't embarrassed to ask a question. I've always been shocked the number of times people are talking about something and I raise my hand or butt into the conversation and say, I don't understand that. And it turns out nobody else in the room did either. Try that. You'll be shocked. People are afraid to ask. And I was taught at an early age, if you don't ask, you're never going to know. And it's a lot easier to ask day 1 than to get into day 20 when it's really embarrassing. That for 20 days you didn't ask, and then you have to. Today is a big day for our students. There have been weeks of preparation involved, not just for them, but for everybody in the school system. And I'm hoping that the head of our school system takes some time tomorrow for himself, because tomorrow is school's chancellor, Dennis Walcott's birthday. And I know that for Dennis, there's no better birthday present than seeing our kids arrive at school ready to learn and succeed. So happy birthday, Dennis. Would you care to say a few words?
Thank you, sir, and thank you for the birthday wishes. It's really a pleasure to be here, and thank you to all of you as well for being here. I remember it was around 3 years ago, August of 2009. 2009. A number of us were standing down the block with a shovel in hand doing a groundbreaking for this building. What was once former chop shops is now a school for students from across the Bronx. And we're just so proud of this school and proud of the collaboration with New Settlement and with our school officials. And I want to thank the School Construction Authority for their outstanding work. As the mayor indicated, today is the first day of school for 1.1 million students. And I want to share something with you. Mayor, I want to give you a factoid just so when you ask me a question, I can give you an answer. Today, I'm going to 5 boroughs, and I'm visiting a school in each of the boroughs. And while I was running this morning, I realized each of the schools that I'm visiting are schools that started under your leadership. And it's just by accident, not by design, but just by accident. So I'm leaving here, going to Manhattan to visit Harlem Village Academy. From there, I'm going to Brooklyn to visit Young Academy for Leaders and another school that started under your leadership. And then from there, I go to Queens to the Eagle Academy. And Eagle Academy started, as well as they have a new building that we've leased, and they're starting today in their first new building. And then from there, I run to Staten Island. I'm going to Staten Island Tech. And Staten Island Tech became a specialized high school under your leadership as well. You have touched so many people with your creativity, your vision, and your determination to make our schools better, and I want to thank you for that. Also under your leadership, we have created, since the beginning of the administration, 600 new schools. 600 new schools. Chicago, the city of Chicago, has roughly 630 schools in total. And we've created 600 new schools. So we are basically, with our new schools alone, right underneath Chicago, and Los Angeles is just ahead of Chicago. An amazing feat. We have 1,750 schools throughout New York City, all offering education to our students. We want to make sure all of them, no matter where the student lives, no matter what the student's zip code may be, receives a high-quality education. It's as a result of teamwork and partnership, of having great principals as our leaders, assistant principals, teachers, parent coordinators, all the staff at DOE, as well as our parents and our children. And we will strive hard this year to make sure we raise the bar and exceed expectations. Now, Mr. Mayor, I am technologically challenged, but I am now going to text. Let's see what happens here. 877, 877, and then I'm going to go down the bar here to say NY, where are you? NYC schools, right?
Yep, one word.
And push send. Spell check is fine. Full menu. And send. And with that, what the hell is that?
You're now signed up.
I'm signed up.
Way to go.
And as a grandparent, I will get information. Confidential information I will not get, but I will find out the school calendar. I will find out PTA meetings and information about where my grandson attends school. And all parents and all people can sign up to find out that information. And that's, again, thanks to you. So, Mr. Mayor, thank you for your leadership. We appreciate everything that you've done. But most importantly, I want to thank our hardworking staff throughout the entire New York City Department of Education for their dedication and commitment to our 1.1 million students. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you for everything you do, and happy birthday again. We're pleased to have with us Ernie Logan, the president of the Council of School Supervisors and Administrators, here with us, and I would like to invite him to share a few words. It's an exciting day for his members as well as for the members of the UFT and all of the other unions that represent the different people that work in our school system. And it's exciting for them because this is their great challenge, and this is why they're in education, to get a chance to make a difference. And today's really one of those days where they can start a whole new school year, a new slate, and at the end of the year, they can achieve a level of satisfaction that very few people in the world get. They know they're going to make a difference, not just for a small group of kids and not just for 1 year, but for life, for generations of kids. Ernie?
Thank you.
There you are.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You're absolutely right. Educators make a difference. And coming to this wonderful building today, this example of a real, true collaboration between Settlement and the work from School Construction Authority. And, you know, when they first started doing buildings, we used to go crazy as a principal, say, what are these people doing here? And we've now finally got it right. Everything that you need is within this. So I need to thank SCA. They've listened to us down through the years, and we will have state-of-the-art facilities, just like anywhere around the country. But I'm really here today because we have such extraordinary educators here. You've heard about Manny, you heard about Jessica, you heard about Barbara Hanson. You've heard about us mentoring from within to incubate and hatch great leaders. And what you see here today is an example of a great leader in Manny, who really nurtured his assistant principal for 5 years and taught her how to do this. And then she had an opportunity today to open up a brand new school. And this is exciting. This is what this is all about. This is about being able to meet the standards that you folks place on us as educators. But we've always said, give us the resources, not just necessarily money, but facilities and the human capital, and we'll be able to make a difference. So I thank you, Mr. Mayor, for doing that. You've always listened to us. We haven't always agreed, and that's good, because if we agreed all the time, I'd probably be mayor and you'd be, you know. But I just want to thank you, because watch that, Dennis. So we've had our differences, but you've always been supportive of us. And our Assemblywoman, chair of the Education Committee, is here today, Kathy Nolan. And when we've gone to Albany and asked, they've given. We always never seem to get enough, but we're going to keep on pushing, because we believe that if we fund our schools at the highest level possible, we'll have the success that we need for our children and for the future. Thank you.
Ernie, thank you, and thank you for everything you do. It is true that every once in a while we disagree, and I've always defended your right to be wrong. The New Settlement Community Campus includes 3 new schools, as well as the New Settlement Community Center. And the New Settlements partnership to create these schools was invaluable. And I'd like to invite Jack Doyle, Executive Director of New Settlement Apartments, to share a few words. Jack? There you are.
Thank you very much. Welcome to the New Settlement Community Campus. In dreams begin responsibilities. And this dream has come to fruition through a powerful partnership that began many years ago with the City of New York, the Department of Education, the School Construction Authority. And it's been through this powerful partnership that today we witness this building. But the promise that must be realized still remains. And so we are very confident that Jessica and Manny and Barbara and Nalda, Dolores, and all those who are responsible for the children and for their education will join in partnership, the most important partnership, the partnership with parents, children, and teachers to ensure their success. We're in the poorest urban congressional district in the country today. That's where we sit. And New Settlement began as a dream, as a vision of Carol Lamberg, who unfortunately couldn't be here today, who's the Executive Director of Settlement Housing Fund, to rebuild a devastated neighborhood. And within 4 blocks of here, there are 17 long-abandoned buildings that are now home to 1,022 families. And New Settlement has partnered with the city through the Department of Youth and Community Development, through many agencies, HPD, to try to bring back to a once devastated neighborhood opportunities for children and for families. We're very honored by that. We're very honored by the fact that we've had the opportunity to work with an outstanding group of partners, ranging from the architects, Datner, Edelman, Sultan, Knox and Wood, with Lorraine, with Bruce from the SCA and all of their many people, with a great construction team, Turner, under the supervision of URS. So it's been an incredible experience. Lots remains to be done, and today is really the beginning of the hard work that remains ahead of us. And thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Chancellor Wolcott.
Jack, thank you. Thank you, Jack. I would be remiss if I didn't also thank Kathy Nolan for everything that she does. We don't really get very much federal money for school systems, but we do get a lot of state money. We used to split it 50-50. Today it's a lot less from the state, but it's still very substantial. And given their budget realities, you know, it's always a struggle to get more, but we should certainly say thank you for what we get, and Kathy's been one of the great advocates for New York City. Would you like to say a couple words?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's very nice of you, and I usually don't avail myself of that privilege, but I want to say...
You always say.
No, but I do actually not with you so much, but I just want to say thank you to Mayor Bloomberg, first of all, for always including state representatives. I know that Vanessa Gibson, who represents the area, is away today down at the convention, but former Assemblywoman Aurelia Green was here from the BP's office, and this was a dream of Aurelia's. She had to leave, but I can hear them talking about this school over the years in the planning and the advocacy, so I had to come for that reason. But I do want to thank the mayor for always acknowledging that state tax dollars, our tax dollars, have come back to the city in the form of additional funds for the School Construction Authority, and wish Dennis and everyone here, my good friend Ernie Logan, and all the people who work so hard, a wonderful school year. My son started high school today, so this is the first time he was like, Mom, you don't have to come. Right. So it changes, you know? It changes. I can't be that kind of mom anymore. So to all the parents who are sending their children to school in a New York City school for the first time today in kindergarten, it gets great. It gets great, and your child can have a wonderful, wonderful experience in our wonderful professional New York City schools. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Before taking questions, let me summarize for our Spanish-speaking New Yorkers. Este nuevo año escolar estamos ofreciendo un nuevo servicio para padres de familia. Pueden manejar un mensaje de texto a New York City Schools y 877-877 para recibir información a vicios escolares en su teléfono celular. With that, I'd be happy to take some questions if anybody has any on the school system. Nothing. Sir.
Mr. Mayor, when you look around at this school, are you amazed at what you find here in terms of the updated facilities, given the other schools and the average age of the other schools?
Yeah, it's been a long time since I went to public schools in Medford, Massachusetts, but I don't think we ever had anything, even adjusting for a different period, as remote as this. All the schools that I went to were built WPA projects, so built during the Depression, and they were 20, 30 years old by the time I got there. But keep in mind, the facilities are facilities. They are facilities where teachers can teach and students can learn, and they are terribly important. In the end, the most important thing is a great teacher in front of every child, well managed and trained by a great principal. And it's just wonderful that we can do it in new school buildings. I'm not taking anything away from the school building, but we can provide the building. Now, the teachers and the principals in our school system are the ones that have to take on the heavy lifting. Teaching is not easy. Every child is different. We live in a very diverse city. There are different language skills, different backgrounds, different family structures. Everything that exists any place in the world exists right here in New York City, and we're committed to making sure that every child gets a good education. I think it's fair to say every child's not going to turn out ready to go to, the traditional Harvard, Yale, or Princeton, but we want to make sure that every child has the opportunity to take whatever skills they have and advance those. And college, incidentally, isn't the only objective. We're trying to train kids who want to go from here directly into the workplace. And in this day and age, you can't work in the New York City sanitation department without a high school education or a GED. You can't join the military unless you have a high school education or GED. Most companies would never give you an interview unless you have a high school diploma or a GED. And those high school diplomas have to be worth something. And so we've got a great challenge ahead of us. The good news is we've made dramatic increases, much better than any other city that I know of, any other big city. With minority kids, with kids who have special needs, with every single group, all of the different ways you can categorize students, they seem to be doing better. And we have, not every year and not every student, but I think the other thing is we've got to remember that we're doing an awful lot of things right. And when somebody says, oh, well, this one student or this one school or this one neighborhood isn't doing well, yes, that's true, and that we shouldn't take our eye off the ball. But to denigrate all of the other great work that the principals and teachers throughout our whole school system have done just takes away from a little bit, takes the edge off their incentive to go out there and do an even better job next day. We have to celebrate successes as well as understand that we haven't succeeded in everything. We have some failures, and we've got to go back to work. And too many people say, oh, you're just touting the successes. overall in this city, the successes far and away outweigh the things that we haven't gotten to yet. But that doesn't mean we're not going to try, Miss.
Have any favorite teachers who really, looking back, made a big
Isn't
difference
even
to you?
close. I remember two teachers, Miss Sharkey, my English teacher, Mr. Lally, my history teacher in the 12th grade. And both they had, all of a sudden they had classes. Miss Sharkey taught something that for 11 previous years I never knew existed. It was called literature. And I thought to myself, what a waste of the previous 11 years. And Mr. Sharkey brought history alive. And before then, history teachers never talked about World War I or World War II because it was much too controversial. They didn't talk about what was going on with Joe McCarthy, the senator who ruined people's lives. And they didn't talk about all of the challenges of not everybody succeeding and not everybody sharing and that sort of thing. And Mr. Lally, I remember stories. His aunt used to go and have early in the morning and get a seat at the Sacco Vanzetti trials. Do you know who Sacco and Vanzetti were? See, you don't read history. Sacco and Vanzetti were two anarchists in Boston who were accused of setting off a bomb that killed a lot of people, and my recollection is they were executed. There was a lot of questions as to whether or not they were prosecuted because of their ethnicity. They were Italian in a period where Italians were prejudiced against, like Irish, like every group that's come. The history of America is, unfortunately, we sometimes go after the newer groups, but then they fit in and we pick another new group. But people still come. What you have to remember when you write all these stories and tell you everything that's wrong with New York City and the state and the country, when people vote with their feet, I don't know any other place they go. They come here. When's the last time somebody's left America? A handful of people, virtually nobody. But the world would just kill, and sometimes do, to get visas and citizenship here. We must be doing something right, yes.
Union President Michael Muldrew is visiting other schools today. For a few years in a row now, the two of you have not been together on the opening of schools.
We just have very busy schedules, and if we go in different directions, we can visit more schools.
Well, what I wanted to know is, January, of course, is the deadline for coming up with a new teacher evaluation
Yes.
system. How would you describe your relationship with the union now, and do you think that you can get a deal by January?
I'm always optimistic. If we don't get a deal by January, we will forfeit a lot of state funds. But we have to have a deal that is real, not just paper and not just something that's designed to qualify for the money. The objective here is to have a real ways to evaluate the people that the taxpayers are paying to teach our kids and to set the agenda for those kids for the rest of their lives. And we will work as hard as we can to get that kind of an evaluation system. And if it's not a real evaluation system, then it's just not going to be. Yes, Miss.
So speaking of evaluation systems, today's the first day of school, and obviously we don't have an evaluation system now. We won't have one for 12, 13, as I understand. So what are kids, or what is the school system missing out on because there is no agreed upon evaluation system? And secondly, what do you feel is the main purpose of this evaluation system?
Well, in everything we do, we get evaluated. At home, in the workplace, in our place of worship, in our sports teams. We have an obligation to make sure that those people who are serving the needs of the city, whether they're police officers or work in an office, giving permits or work in the schools or whatever, do the job that the public wants them to do, and that is to have real results. And we are, to the extent we possibly can, trying to evaluate all of them. In the private sector, virtually everybody gets evaluated every day. And if they don't succeed, the marketplace de-accessions them, if you will, which is a nice way of saying they just don't keep their jobs. Nobody has a right to a job in the public system. The public school system, the public police department, fire department, every part of the city. The public wants to pay and hire good people and have them deliver results. In the case of education, it's giving the kids the skills they need. And the evaluation system has to evaluate those skills. And this is not that hard to do. You can make it as controversial as you want if you don't want to, or as complex as you want if you don't want it to really work. But there's always stuff. They teach the test. Yeah, the test is, can you read? That's exactly what teachers should be doing. They teach the test in math. Yes, if you can't add 2 and 2 and come up with 4, then you haven't learned what you're supposed to learn. The tests reflect the real world, not perfectly, but they're the best we have, and we have to use what we have. And just saying, I just believe that so and so is doing a good job, it's not adequate. The school system and the police department and every other system is not running for the people that work there. It's being run for the people they serve, and we're going to make sure that's the case. Yes, Miss, do you have a question?
Oh, yeah, just an issue has come up apparently with school lunches and a conflict between serving lunches that are nutritionally really good versus meeting minimum calorie requirements.
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind, a lot of the federal guidelines have been changed since then. The big problem today in our school system is there's plenty of kids that don't get a meal at home, and that's why we give hundreds of thousands of meals a day. But a very big problem also is childhood obesity, and I'm happy to say the young people in this city in the last 3 years, obesity has gone down something like 5%. We believe it is the only, not just school system, the only place in the world where you can show that obesity has really gone down. I'm sure there's some others we don't know about, but this is a major accomplishment. If kids are obese, they're going to be obese as adults generally, or will certainly have a battle. So really attacking childhood obesity is something that's going to change their lives, and we're going in the right direction. We educate our kids on the value of eating well and of staying thin and fit and getting exercise and understanding the impact of overeating. We have changed our school lunch programs to reduce the caloric intake. We've added an enormous number of salad bars. We've changed the drinks in the vending machines from full-sugared carbonated beverages to diet carbonated beverages. And all of those things together really have made a difference. Yes, Miss?
The SED, the State Education Department, released a list of about 120-some city schools that are struggling. Will that list affect your decisions about which schools to put up for closure this year? And if not, are there any new factors going into that decision?
Well, Dennis, I'll let Dennis talk about it, but that's certainly a list that the schools, a lot of the schools we closed this year, and some that we've tried to close, but the courts have stopped us, so these kids are going to go a whole nother year of their lives without an education where they're never going to catch up, most of them. It's really a disgrace. That list came from the state. Dennis, you want to add something?
I mean, Mayor basically answered the question, and we'll be analyzing the list and analyzing our data, and then we'll be making a decision and letting people know the schools that we'll be going after to close, and those we'll be supporting to make them better. So you'll get information as we move forward.
Yes, Miss.
About the 24 schools that you just mentioned, the students showing up there today, some of them, I guess, told one of our reporters that they were nervous about the ongoing litigation and how it could affect their school year this year.
Boy, if we lose this litigation, it's going to affect them for the rest of their lives. So I don't know whether they're mature enough to understand the implications of not getting a good education, the implications of being stuck in a school that the state said is subpar and should be changed or closed. But the parents, I hope, do. We are condemning these kids. That's not fair. We are making it infinitely more difficult for those kids to get the kind of education they're going to need to join and share in the great American dream. This is just one of the few things that keep me up at night. But when I think about what's happened here, this just shouldn't happen in our society. We're not going to be able to compete, and we're not going to be able to have the kind of society and have everybody share in it that we want unless we have good schools. These schools are a bunch of schools where they have single-digit proficiency ratings. It is impossible to make the case that there isn't something dramatically wrong here. You can argue about how you fix it, But to go on and do the same thing with the same people is just unconscionable. Yes, Miss. Last question.
So I've spoken to teachers at some of the turnaround schools that we were just talking about, who've said that the threat of closure through the turnaround process has been a detriment to the school cultural and morale, even though the city has allocated $18 million to the schools to make up the difference for some of the lack of SIG funding. So does the city think do you think it's too late for these schools to improve without closure? Or
we're not stupid. If the school were to dramatically get better, nobody would be happier than us, and then you wouldn't want to close it. But the truth of the matter is it's very unlikely with the same staff. They've had a number of years of trying to do it, and it's not worked. No rational person keeps throwing money, good money after bad. At some point, you've got to say enough. And it's not being run for the teachers. It's being run for the students. And a rational person would say after X number of years, that's it. We've tried everything. You got to try something that in the past, the traditional things, got to do something new. And that's what we're going to do.
$18 million throwing more money.
We have an obligation to do, as long as the courts force us to keep those schools open. We can't walk away from those kids. So you can argue that we're not going to get as much from the $18,000 per student or whatever it is as we could if there were better schools. But we certainly are not going to, we can't walk away from children, even though I think the courts couldn't be wrong. Other topics,
Another topic, last night saw yet another young child injured by gunfire.
Fortunately just grazed, if I'm told. So.
We're right at the start of the crux of the election cycle. The Republicans laid out their platform last week. Democrats were down in Charlotte doing the same. What's your take on the fact that neither party has made your biggest issue, gun control, such a major part of their individual platforms?
I think it's fair to say it's a disgrace that they should be embarrassed. I have said repeatedly there are roughly 34 murders every day in this country with illegal guns. If you do the math, that's 48,000 Americans that are going to be killed in the next 4 years. If that isn't an issue that deserves a straight answer from presidential candidates as to what they would do to stop it, I don't know. Now, the practical reality, they would say, is that they cannot address it during a campaign because the NRA is so strident and singly focused and irrational, I would argue. But that's their decision. Somehow or other, I've always thought there's got to be something more important than getting elected. It's just got to be that you can stand up, and I don't know how you don't stand up and say what you're going to do. The same thing could be said for immigration policy, where we're committing national suicide, and a tax policy and a fiscal policy that's going to bankrupt us and all those things. But in the direct answer to your question, it's a disgrace that neither is willing to say it. I've called for it again and again and again. And you know, it's interesting. We talk about all of these murders in New York. New York, by comparison, is so safe, it's almost you need a different chart to measure it. I was in Chicago yesterday. Their murder rate this year is up 34%. Our murder rate is down 20% from last year. Just think about the difference. And nevertheless, it's up to us. We still have too many murders. We still have too many guns. We shouldn't stop at where we are now. And incidentally, I think the mayor of Chicago is part of the mayor's coalition against illegal guns, so they understand and they're joining it. But this is a national issue. There are a lot of things, if you do, they get done at the local level. Most of the environmental progress in this country has been made at the local level. Most education reform has been done at a local level. You can go right down the list. Job creation has been done at a local level. But guns, you can fight crime at a local level, but the guns are too easy to transport across borders. We have to have national legislation that's then funded so that it's enforced. What Congress did the last time is they passed tough laws and didn't bother to give any money to do it. Yes, sir. To enforce it, yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I think it's fair to say you're a stalwart supporter of Israel. How important do you think it was that the president intervened to make sure that there was a statement in the Democratic platform recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel?
Well, look, I think it is a nice gesture. I'm not so sure that what this Israeli government wants to do, whether they want to make Jerusalem the capital of Israel, that's up to them. I think Hillary Clinton would answer the question as to should they or shouldn't they in the context of all of the different interactions in the Middle East. There is none of these things, symbolic things, are easy. They're not done because they're so controversial. But in the end, Israel is America's only strong ally. It is the only real democracy in that part of the world. It is a great partner with New York City and with New York State and with America. I think the president understands that, and he has always been a staunch supporter of Israel, and I think so has Mitt Romney. So it's a gesture, but it's not the be-all and end-all. The real question is, will America stand up with Israel and help Israel in its defense where it's facing a country that's building nuclear bombs and has publicly said they want to destroy Israel? That's where Israel really needs the help. Anything else? If not,
you have confidence, as a follow-up from that, do you have confidence that the U.S. will stand behind Israel?
I certainly hope so. If you want to put yourself in Israel's position, that's exactly the question that the leadership in Israel has to decide. Yes?
Have you spoken to Mayor Koch? Have you had a chance?
3 times yesterday. The phone was busy all 3 times. So if Ed is watching, it isn't Ed that I don't care. I wanted to know, how you doing? All the best. Thank you. It's a wonderful day for the city.
Thank you, sir.
I didn't realize. Thanks. Good job. Running up and down and hurting them. Like literally.